what is the best part? Is it the launch, the landing? Is it floating around in zero gravity? Is it looking out at planet Earth, which is incredibly beautiful? What's the best part about it? And all those things are great. But for me, the best part about being an astronaut and flying in space is that it's really, really hard. It's a hard thing to do. To fly in space, to spend a year in space. And that's what I want to talk to you all about today, is about doing the hard things. Not the easy things. Anyone can talk about the easy stuff. I want to talk about the hard stuff and how I was able to do that in my career, first in the Navy, and then later at NASA. And for me, the hard things involved some other things. It was about having a goal and a plan. It was about taking risks, being willing to make mistakes at times, even being willing to fail. It was about focusing on the things that I could control and ignore what I couldn't. It was about testing the status quo and about working as a team. Because in my experience, when I was able to put all these things together, what I learned is that the sky is not the limit. Cliche, I know, but absolutely true in my case. So I told you the secret about my pants, and I'm going to share another one with you. And I know there are some kids in here, so this is the time maybe for earmuffs. But the other secret is, when I was a kid growing up, I was a really, really bad student. I know it's hard to believe. I know you're thinking, you know, that guy's an astronaut. He must have been the smartest kid in the class, the overachiever. That was not me. I sat in the back of the room, looked out the window, looked at the clock trying to make it run faster. I was not a very good student. I think if I was in school today, I'd be, you know, a kid with ADD or ADHD. School was not my thing. I grew up in New Jersey in the 1960s and 70s during the height of the Apollo space program and the TV show I Dream of Jeannie. Saw Neil and Buzz walk on the moon for the first time as a kid. And of course, I watched a lot of television because I was not doing my homework. So space was something that was important in my life, but I actually never thought I could be an astronaut and work at NASA and fly in space maybe someday. I do remember, though, the first time I said that I wanted to be an astronaut. I was in the first grade in the boys' bathroom, standing next to one of my first grade classmates right in front of the urinal, doing what first grade boys do in there. We're both peeing on the floor. And this kid turns to me and he says, "Hey Scott, what are you gonna do when you grow up?" I said, "I don't know. Play baseball for the Mets, maybe?" He was a Mets fan. And this kid turns to me and he says, "I'm gonna be an astronaut." I thought how cool that sounded, so I said, "I'm gonna be an astronaut too." And he said to me, he goes, "You can't be an astronaut because I'm gonna be an astronaut." This was not my twin brother Mark, by the way, who also went on to fly in space. I think it would have been a better story had it been him. I actually wish I could find this kid today. Not to humiliate him or anything. Kind of curious what he ended up doing. Who knows, maybe he played baseball for the Mets. Our dad was a police officer. One of these systems I had to know more about than the entire F-14 Tomcat that I flew in the Navy. That's how complicated it was. But I worked really, really hard at it. Really hard. And after, which, you know, for a kid that probably had ADD, ADHD, learning how to fly the most complicated machine was not easy, but I didn't give up. And 3 years later, I'm getting ready to fly my first flight into space. Almost 18 years to the day when I read the book, The Right Stuff, at 18 years old. It was a mission to the Hubble Space Telescope, a repair mission. Hubble was spinning out of control. Me and 6 other crewmates, I was the only rookie on the flight. And we get in that white silver Airstream van and head out to the launch pad, about 5 miles away. We get out there, space shuttle, fully fueled rocket, on the pad, weighs 5 million pounds. The launch pad is completely abandoned, except for you and your crewmates and a few people to help you get strapped in, because, you know, this is basically a bomb on the top of this hill. You get in the elevator, you go up to the top, you get in the cockpit, strap yourself in, they help you, you get strapped in. Guys bolt the hatch, they take off, and they get about 5 miles away. You're out there, just you and your crew alone. The clock is counting down towards zero, working through all these checklists and procedures. Space Shuttle has over 2,000 switches and circuit breakers inside. You're getting all these systems ready. Clock is heading towards zero. Gets to 9 minutes. Clock gets to 9 minutes and it stops. That's to give you time to catch up if you happen to be behind on what you're doing. It's also the moment you think to yourself, man, this is really stupid. Flying into space. You know, when you do this the first time, it is really a surreal experience. But you can't get away, you're strapped in, the hatch is bolted closed. You're committed. Plus, it would look really silly to be the first astronaut ever to run away from the rocket. Probably live in meme hell for the rest of your life. Then the clock picks up at 9 minutes, gets to a minute, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, the computers on the space shuttle take over. At 6 seconds, the main engine's light, 3 giant main engines, million pounds of thrust. But you don't go anywhere, because you're bolted to the launch pad by these 8 giant bolts. And the clock goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Those bolts are exploded open. The solid rocket motors light at the exact same time. And it feels like the hand of God is just lifting you off that launch pad and it's throwing you into outer space. I know some of you may have seen the shuttle launch in person or on TV. It looks like the space shuttle lifts off slowly. When you're inside, there is nothing slow about this. You get the feeling you're going somewhere. You're not sure where you're going, but you know you're not coming back to Florida.
2, 1, booster ignition. Returning to the space station safety ready for detonation.
You know, sometimes people ask me, hey, what does it look like when you punch a hole in the sky? I don't know. Never looked out the window one time. Both of my flights on the space shuttle sitting right up front. Never looked out the window one time. Because I was focused on the stuff I could control. You know, all these 2,000 switches and circuit breakers, these procedures, the displays, doing my job. That never even dawned on me to look out the window. You know, in the Navy, we have a term called compartmentalization. You know, knowing the things you have control over and ignoring the stuff that you have no control over. This is really it's kind of a good skill. No matter what you do in your life, let's say you're a business person, there are things you have control over. You have control over your business. You don't have control over the economy. You might not have control of government regulations. It's important to know the things that you can control and ignore everything else. Within 8.5 minutes, the engine's cut off. We're flying at 17,500 miles an hour around planet Earth, vacuum in space. Still haven't looked out the window, by the way. About 20 minutes after we were in space, I happened to just see something outside. I was looking across the cockpit. Something distracted me. And I said to the commander, I said, the hell was that? He says, oh, that's the sunrise. And as the sun came up, this was his 6th flight, but as the sun came up, I just saw how breathtakingly beautiful our planet Earth is. Almost like someone took the most brilliant blue paint and just painted it on a mirror, like right in front of my eyes. And I knew right then and there, I would never, ever see anything as beautiful as our planet Earth again. We had to get to work, we had to fix the telescope, it was spinning out of control. This was right before Y2K, by the way. December 1999. Some of you kids in here might not even know what Y2K is. Some of your parents and everyone else on the planet panicked over a zero. the year 2000. NASA was actually worried. They didn't want us in space during Y2K. They actually had us come back early because they were concerned that the computers on the space shuttle were going to divide by zero, and we were going to go through a wormhole, end up on the other side of the galaxy. We rendezvoused with the telescope, grabbed it, put it in the payload bay. It's the size of a school bus, really big. 4 of my crew members went out on 3 spacewalks, fixed the telescope. Then over the course of the next few days, then we deployed it back into low Earth orbit on Christmas of 1999 to do its incredible science. And ever since then, I've had this fascination with Hubble and what it's shown us about our place in this universe. A couple of decades ago now, this telescope's been up there a long time, science pointed it at a spot in the sky that was absolutely dark. They thought there was nothing there, completely black. The size of a width of a dime at the back of the stadium. Tiny speck. Left it there, pointed for a week. And when they exposed the image, they saw thousands of galaxies in that tiny speck of sky, very much like our Milky Way galaxy, which has billions of stars in it. A few years later, they pointed it in the exact opposite direction, another black spot. Saw the same exact thing. Now we know, anywhere you look in the sky, this is how it looks. Galaxies, thousands, billions of stars, and from these calculations, scientists were able to figure out that there were more stars in the universe than grains of sand on every beach and desert on planet Earth. Now, I can't imagine there being many more stars than the sand in a playground play box. But a few years ago, they realized they were off by a factor of 10. There are actually 10 times as many stars in the universe than grains of sand on planet Earth. And that's only 5% of the matter, the visible matter, of the matter in the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy. We don't really quite even understand that. And because of these kind of numbers that are really hard to comprehend, and the fact that I've spent a lot of time in space, people sometimes ask me, "Hey Scott, you ever see anything up there you can't explain? Stuff that looks weird?" I'm getting it right. Aliens? Well, when I was in the Navy, I visited Area 51, and I'm sorry to tell you, there are no aliens there. It's because we moved them all to Area 52. Please don't share that with anybody on social media. I don't want the Space Force showing up at my house tomorrow. So we came back from this mission, and I had the privilege of flying my next flight as the commander of the space shuttle to the International Space Station. Came back from that flight. My next flight was what I used to call a long-duration flight to the International Space Station, 159 days. And that's when I came back, when I got back in 2011, and NASA started talking about sending 2 people into space, an astronaut and a cosmonaut, for an entire year, for nearly a year. And somehow they came up with me, and this guy I now refer to as my Russian brother from another mother, Mikhail Kornienko, Misha, and we were going to go spend a year on the International Space Station. You might wonder why. We spent 6 months up there. Why a year? Well, someday you want to go to Mars. Mars is really far away. When people go to Mars, at one point you're going to be on the other side of the sun from the Earth. That's how far away it is. It's going to take you 200 days to get there. Have to spend maybe over a year on the surface, 200 days to get back. And when you're in space for a really long time, bad things happen to our physiology. We lose bone mass at 1% a month if you didn't do anything to prevent it. So after 100 months, you wouldn't have a skeleton. You'd be like, I don't know, Gumby, maybe. Lose muscle mass at the same rate. There's effects on our vision, effects on our immune system, cognitive effects, radiation in space and how that affects us genetically. I got anywhere from 10 to 20 chest x-rays equivalent of radiation every single day I was in space. And these are the type of things we have to understand more about if we're going to send people to Mars. And we have to understand the systems that are going to keep us alive on the way to Mars. If we're on your way to Mars and the toilet breaks and you don't have the spare parts or you can't fix it, you're going to die from a broken toilet. No doubt about it. So we're trying to understand our physiology and also the systems, the concepts that keep people supported and alive in space for a really long period of time. So in March of 2015, for the second time in my life, I'm in this place called Baikonur in Kazakhstan, Central Asia, middle of nowhere, which is a great place to be when you're launching in space for a year. You actually feel like you're kind of halfway there already. And we head out to the launch pad, the Russian version of that silver Airstream van. We get out there, me and my two Russian colleagues. Russian Soyuz rocket on the pad. Similar to the space shuttle in that, it also launches people into space. That's kind of where the similarity stops, though. And you get up to the launch pad, it is not abandoned with people. Fully fueled rocket, liquid oxygen, liquid kerosene, we use it for fuel. There are about 100 people on the pad, just milling around like you're having a big party. And you're trying to get through the crowd to get to your spaceship. Some of them are actually smoking cigarettes. Swear to God. Smokers, based on a fully fueled rocket. It's actually blown up once and killed like 70 people in the 1960s. You might wonder why there's a difference. Well, Russians, different culture. They've been great partners with us in space, by the way, great partners in space. Poke a little bit of fun at some of their things, but different culture, different superstitions, and one of their big things is if their friends are going on a long trip, they are absolutely going to be there to say goodbye. It does not matter if it's at the base of this rocket with a smoker. And you get in, you go up to the top, and you get strapped in the Soyuz capsule. It's about as small as it can possibly be, and you get the 3 grown people in there, you're elbow to elbow, your knees are up to your chin, you can barely move, it's painful, it's hot, it's loud, visor's fogging up, it's dark. There's no countdown clock, like in the space shuttle. The Russians didn't feel like a need to put a countdown clock in the Soyuz. This was going to be a rocket that was really designed to launch nuclear weapons at somebody, very automated. After a while, you're like, what time are we leaving? 10:10. Is that like Moscow time? Baikonur time. Time passes and eventually some guy comes up on the radio in Russian. All you hear him say is, ignition. I can just picture the smoker there. Lighting that rocket. Hard time. Soyuz does lift off slowly. But still, within 9 minutes, you are flying around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour. It takes about 6 hours to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station. A couple hours later, do some leak checks to make sure the hatch interface is not leaking. And then we open the hatch. And my Russian brother and I, Misha, we float through the hatch together. Because him and I are together in this as a team for the entire year. I get inside the space station for the first time. I'd been there 4 years prior for 6 months. I get inside, the place looks the same, sounds the same, smells the same. And I think to myself, day one of the year in space, man, this is really stupid. Spending a year in space. 6 months was a long time. So you can't come home, get tired of it. No Uber. Not yet anyway. No Uber space. Someday. You might wonder, what is the space station like? It's 1 million pounds. It's the size of a 5-bedroom house, really big. Still has a lot of stuff inside, but a really, really big, sophisticated place. A great example of a renewable energy system. We have these giant solar arrays, takes energy from the sun, converts it to electricity, powers all the systems on board the space station. We take our urine, we turn it into water, which we then drink. And we turn it into urine again. Then we drink it again. Actually, we drink it again after we turn it into water. I know what you're thinking. That guy drank his pee for a whole year. Actually, I drank everyone's pee. It's all mixed together. But it does taste better than the water in Florida. Some of that water we use to make oxygen through electrolysis. We scrub the atmosphere of carbon dioxide, all these things that we're going to have to know how to do very, very well if we're going to send people to Mars someday. You can't come home. You're on your way to Mars, you forgot something, you're never going to get it. Spare part, something breaks, you got to fix it. And we're also on board the space station. It's about the science. And that's really why we're away and then fire our deorbit engines for a few minutes. Not only slows us down by a few hundred miles an hour, and the rest of the speed is taken out of the spacecraft with friction with the atmosphere. Somewhat similar to the space shuttle. Space shuttle fires the engine the same way. Space shuttle's very risky. I lost 3 of my astronaut classmates on Columbia. It was very risky coming back. But, the space shuttle's really big. The fireball is out in front of you, lands on a runway like an airplane. It's kind of more like driving a Bentley down Park Avenue, maybe. The Soyuz, much more medieval experience. Once the engine's cut off, the 3 sections are exploded apart. You look outside, and there's all this debris flying around. Someone's actually hitting the windows. The window is right on the side of your head. Pretty soon you're hitting the atmosphere. You're in this 3,000 degree fireball. There's pieces of the heat shield just flying right by your head. It gets hot inside. It's kind of like maybe going over Niagara Falls in a barrel, but while you're on fire. And as soon as you realize you're not going to die, it is the most fun you've ever had in your entire life. Parachute opens, you're thrown around like crazy, and you float down under this big white and orange parachute open. But gently down to Earth, you float. A few minutes later, the Russian rescue forces, they open the hatch. Fresh air rushes inside me. Felt like the first time I've ever breathed fresh air in my entire life. They pulled me out of the capsule, and I was not feeling good. I had this big smile on my face, only because I was trying to look better than the 2 Russian guys I was with. I was hoping to get an Academy Award nomination for this performance. But I understand they sometimes make mistakes. I don't know how long that joke's gonna last. Within 24 hours, I'm back in Houston, Texas. I get to see my family for the first time in a year. Then I go to NASA, I do some medical checks, get home, 4 o'clock in the morning, walk in the front door of my house, out the back door, jump in the swimming pool, fully clothed, come back inside, had a beer and an apple pie. I'm sent from the White House. Homemade. Even the beer was homemade. Took a shower for the first time in a year. Slept in a bed. All those things were great. They're all great. The best part about this experience was knowing that I'd just done the hardest thing I think I will ever have to do in my entire life. And then being able to share that experience, that success, with my family and my friends, and you guys in this room tonight. Absolutely. You trust that it's trustworthy, that you know when they say they did something or didn't do something, that you can believe them. And that is absolutely the case in space. You need to do that. The Russians actually have a much different system than we do. They're compensated while they're in space on a daily basis. They're paid anywhere from like $350 to $700 a day extra. As a NASA astronaut, you're paid extra the government rate of compensation when everything is provided, which is $3 a day extra. But their bonus is deducted when they make a mistake. And there's someone on the ground that their only job is to write down all the mistakes they make. So they're very reluctant to admit to anything. I would often tell them, hey, if you guys make a mistake, just blame it on me. Okay? Just say the American guy did it. And that way, at least we would know what happened and the ground could look into this. So I think one of the most important traits is having people that you can trust to always tell the truth. Because if you don't, it risks people's lives, it risks the mission, And it also makes hundreds of people on the ground try to, run off and figure out what happened, when all it really took is someone saying, that was me. I did a spacewalk, the second spacewalk I did. I was working around this rail car that's on the outside of the space station, kind of like an old, hand car. And after we got back in, the control center tried to move, the robot arm was on it, and they tried to move it and got stuck. It was stuck between positions. And with it stuck, they couldn't dock a visiting spacecraft. They had to try to figure out, they had to fix it, to figure out what happened. And we had a conference with the ground, and they said, well, here are the things, the possible failures that happened. And they got down to like number 5 or 6, and they said, one of you guys could have accidentally locked the brake while you're out there. And I was like, oh, that was me. I'm pretty sure I did that. I didn't know at the time I did, but I was climbing all over those handles, and I never released the brake when I left, and no one on the ground, told me to or noticed. Kind of forgot about it. We were too focused on something else, and I had to go outside and fix it, which was great because I got to do another spacewalk. It was only 5 hours instead of the normal like 7.5, which is brutal.
Awesome. A gorilla suit or an espresso machine?
That's it.
Running out of cargo space, what is more important?
I prefer the gorilla suit.
Good to know.
Google space gorilla when you leave here.
My follow-up to that is who wears the gorilla suit better, you or your brother Mark?
I think I'm the only person who's ever worn a gorilla suit in space.
We didn't get many of these questions before, and was cheating on my paper.
Who or what is your favorite brand of chocolate to eat while you're in space?
So NASA has these chocolates, they call them candy-covered chocolates. Because they're not allowed to promote the fact that they're like M&Ms. You had to be careful because you never wanted to, a lot of times they get away and find one flying. You always want to make sure, especially a certain color one always has that label.
Do you still look for candy-covered chocolates like in the grocery store?
Yeah, it's a good candy. You know the brownie we have on the space station? It's the little Debbie. It's good.
What is your preference, Velcro or duct tape?
Duct tape. And you know why? Because Velcro can just hold something. Duct tape can do anything. It's like a superpower.
We heard that while you were in space, you watched Game of Thrones. And we were wondering, what is your favorite character?
Oh, it's Arya to start, absolutely. For years, people told me, hey, you gotta watch Game of Thrones. I'm like, I'm saving it for when I'm in space. Binge watching it. But Arya reminds me of my youngest daughter, Charlotte, who's 15. Even besides her, like, killing people part.
What is your favorite plane to fly?
F-14 Tomcat.
Is that different than the one that you got disqualified in?
It's the same one. It's the Harley Davidson of fighter planes.
And I think this is the close of our rapid fire question round, and this may be the most important question. Star Wars or Star Trek, and why?
You know, this answer always kind of upsets people, but for me, it's Star Wars. Because of the lightsaber. And if the Space Force ever got lightsabers, I'm all in.
Alright, moving on with some more serious questions, I guess. What is the most interesting research payload you have seen aboard the ISS, or the one you had the most fun with?
So we had mice on board that very, very challenging to work with. They were great for a number of reasons. One, it was interesting watching them because they show up in space just like kind of we do. You're like this, you're like, don't know what's going on. They're hanging to the little cages and the walls, and they're like nervous. Then, you know, over time, eventually they're flying around like Mighty Mouse. Yeah, but also they were very important to our research and the experiments we did. We did in a very humane way. There was a lot of, attention paid to that, but very, very challenging work to work with these little guys and to do the stuff we had to do with them, to do research on things that affect us in space. So very much like when we age. A lot of things that happen to us on orbit are very similar to as we age at a very rapid rate. And there were a lot of things, we had a little X-ray machine for them, we could X-ray their bones and stuff while they're in space and do some other stuff. I'm not going to go into too many details, but I found that, I didn't think I would find that as the experiment that I enjoyed the most. There's over 400 experiments on the space station, some of which you might not even know what they are. You have no idea because you have no interaction with them. Others, you might just flip a switch. Sometimes you're more like a scientist, sometimes you're a science operator. Sometimes we kind of had a running joke on the space station with this guy, Kjell Lindgren, and I. He would say, hey, what are you doing? I would say, I'm doing steps like 7 through 15. Like, meaning that I don't really know. But I'm just following up.
And very sadly, this is going to be the last question of the evening. Captain Kelly, you speak at length about humanitarianism and climate change and how important those topics are. But these issues can kind of shape a narrative that is a little more left-leaning. And I'm wondering how you foster those conversations with people who maybe don't disagree with that political viewpoint, and then how we can model that practice in our own lives.
Well, I am not a scientist. I never claimed to be a scientist. I just, if I want an opinion on, let's say you have a medical problem, right? And you're going to go to a doctor and ask them, hey, what's wrong? You're not going to go to an attorney and say, hey, what's wrong with my knee? Or, somebody else that is not their expertise. You're going to ask the experts. And, I basically am kind of trusting of the experts in this field, and when 90-something% of the experts say, hey, this is an issue we have to address, and I've looked at the data, and I know you can argue, things are about opinions, but when you see people that just say, hey, I absolutely do not believe what those other people are saying, to me, there's no basis in doing that. It's kind of like, you have your heart's having an issue, and you go and ask your accountant what to do. So it's a very touchy subject, but I think it's an important thing, and it's important to our planet, and I think we need to have an emphasis on it.
Captain Kelly, thank you.
Thank you very much.